There are quite a few different new Nintendo Switch 2 news and updates going around that I want to cover with you all today, starting with some more clarification of the most recent system firmware upgrade on multiple fronts. One of the fronts being the fact that we actually have 15 plus new games for Switch 1 backwards compatibility that now run better than they did prior to this system firmware upgrade. One game even getting its own individual patch that should really make things look and run a little bit nicer. These are not necessarily Switch 2 edition level upgrades, but nonetheless, these games had backwards compatibility issues before. They now should be fixed and ready to go. From there, we have an unintentional, according to Nintendo that is, effect of this most recent software update, which was that a lot of third-party docks mysteriously stopped working on the system, and there's now some official comments from Nintendo and hopefully some good news to come from there. We do have the official Game of the Year awards that have been outlined, and Nintendo has 3 different nominations that I want to highlight with you all today. There is an interesting new leak or rumor going around suggesting that GTA 6 may indeed be headed to Nintendo Switch 2, and while that could indeed be the case, there is a perspective online from somebody else who's put out reliable information, because we have kind of 2 different sources on this one, calling into question some of it, and I tend to agree a little bit with this outlook and mindset, and maybe temper the expectations around how soon, if this does indeed end up materializing, that it will happen at all. Then finally, we have our first official look at the Legend of Zelda movie, straight up from Nintendo, actually in non-Nintendo fashion. Instead of DMCA striking all of the leaked footage that was out there circulating recently, they just came out and dropped their own set of screenshots. So pretty cool deal there, but we'll highlight all of that. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And we're going to first kick this off right over at Go Nintendo, where they have the write-up with what's changed in terms of Switch 1 compatible games on Switch 2, when of course using backwards compatibility on the system. Nintendo reveals a new wave of Switch 1 games that are now fully compatible with the Switch 2. Since the Switch 2 release, Nintendo's been working diligently to ensure every Switch 1 game can be played on their next-gen hardware without issue. The Switch 2 launched with a sizable amount of Switch 1 games fully playable, but there were definitely some titles that had issues or simply wouldn't fire up. As weeks and months roll on, Nintendo continues their efforts to get Switch 1 games in tip-top shape on Switch 2. So again, these are not necessarily Switch 2 edition type upgrades, but they should run, look better at some level, or at least be fully compatible and not have issues like what may have been happening up to this point in time. And we'll just highlight some of the, bigger in scope games. This is actually one that recently got a patch of its own to run better, and that is Batman Arkham Knight, which is definitely good. If you own that one, maybe boot it up now past the newest system firmware upgrade and see if it does actually look and run quite a bit better. We have Hitman 3, but that is a cloud version, so not near as much interest there. And then you do have Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which is very much something that listen, if you were having problems with that game, I never looked into how it was running on the Switch 2, but that's a big one that came out towards the end of the Switch 1's life cycle. And I don't think this is running 60 FPS or anything like that now, which I really hope that Nintendo does a true either Switch 2 edition upgrade, or at least just one of those free updates where it takes advantage of like the 4K 60 stuff, because that game would look beautiful with that. But it was a game that, since it launched so late in the Switch's life cycle, it's nice to see them go back and actually fix any of the potential issues that it was having up to that point in time. On the note of the new system firmware upgrade, though, and what else has been identified, this is something that Nintendo now issues a statement around it, but if you own third-party docks, you might want to pay attention to this. So Nintendo issues statement on third-party Switch 2 docks. Nintendo has provided a brief comment on third-party Switch 2 docks, stating that the company had no intention of blocking them. Earlier this week, version 21.00 was released for the system. While it brought some interesting elements to the table, it also apparently broke a few things as well. We already reported that Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are having issues. I'm seeing that go around online as well, so be advised there. They may have to go back and tweak something. But some third-party docks don't seem to be functioning now as well. In the official statement, Nintendo Switch 2 outputs audio visuals once it detects that it is docked into a Nintendo Switch 2 dock. The Nintendo Switch does the same, outputting audio visuals once it detects it's docked into a Nintendo Switch dock. Nintendo does not have any intention to hinder or invalidate legal third-party dock compatibility. And then they do highlight here a Nintendo Everything, that is, that various third-party options are currently available for Nintendo Switch 2. One such manufacturer is Next, but the company has already confirmed that the issue has been resolved. Those who purchase Next dock should be able to look out for a firmware update either today or on Saturday. Others will likely follow as well. So that's worth knowing if you own third-party docks. Now, some people will say, why would you want a third-party dock? And the reality is the Switch 2 dock by itself, I think it's like $120 US. It's pretty expensive. And if you have a third-party solution and you're just using it sometimes out in the living room, sometimes in your, bedroom setup, whatever your, use case is, you might want to own a third-party dock, for ease of just transporting your console around the home, and you can maybe do it cheaper through a third-party option than Nintendo. Well, apparently something in this system firmware upgrade made that just not compatible with those third-party docks anymore. The nice thing is Nintendo's not trying to do that. That's likely something that's going on in the code, that it changes some kind of check that it has for a actual valid dock from Nintendo, and that got updated. And now the solution will be like in next case where they have a third-party dock, they're already telling you to look out for a firmware upgrade. So more than likely, if you own third-party docks that did indeed get blocked or bricked by this most recent update, just hang out on the sidelines for a little bit, go back to just using your official Nintendo Switch 2 dock. And then it does seem like we should start to see firmware upgrades roll out from these manufacturers to hopefully fix that sooner rather than later. Of course, it might be a case-by-case basis depending on your manufacturer, but I would start to Google some stuff around firmware updates for docks on the third-party front if you are somebody who is affected by this issue. Okay, next up, I want to shout out the Nintendo games that were up for Game of the Year, and a friend of the channel, Nintendo Prime, put this together in a tweet, so we're just going to read kind of the first couple lines here. Nintendo was nominated for 3 awards at the Game Awards 2025. Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World are both up for Best Family Game. Mario Kart World is up for Best Sports/Racing Game, and Donkey Kong Bonanza did indeed make the cut for Game of the Year. So I guess technically 4 awards there total. In terms of, 3 awards, but 4 game slots that they could win those awards in. In earnest, I believe Nintendo is winning a single award, Best Family Game, going to DK Bonanza. Bonanza is the only Game of the Year nominee to only be nominated for a single category. And yes, this is where I wanted to chime in, and I definitely align with this thought process because, listen, if this award nomination ceremony was not just a complete spoiler for the fact that Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is winning Game of the Year, I don't know what is. It is literally nominated for like every actual category, and I am so on board with Claire Obscure Expedition 33. It's literally a life-changing game for me, and one of my true games that I do believe sometimes games are overhyped. This one for me, story, the turn-based combat mechanics, everything, I just loved my time with it. It's such another level that, I'm actually ordering the special collector's edition for it. That's very not a common thing to get. And I think I ordered it 6 months ago or something, and it has yet to really even ship or process. Maybe I got scammed, but I think it was legit. Anyway, that's the kind of game it was for me. And I do agree with all of that, being in the center of attention for the Game of the Year nomination and stuff. But it's very clear that that's probably winning. Donkey Kong Bonanza, I do think will win the Best Family Game. And I wish it was up for more, just to be transparent. I mean, it was sorely missing from the action adventure game, in my opinion. They don't have like a platformer section straight for nominations, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Like, if you enjoyed, your own personal selections more than what you're seeing the nominations for, well, then that's your personal Game of the Year. Game of the Year is kind of exciting to watch and see more of the spectacle of new announcements and kind of the gaming industry coming together on a stage. It's cool to have, but it's not something that's going to change my opinions or direction of, what was my personal Game of the Year this year. And I think Nintendo getting some recognition for Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World, but obviously games like Metroid Prime 4 Beyond that I actually think would maybe be more in line with some of these nominations. The Game Awards happen in December, in the very beginning part of December, and clearly Metroid Prime 4 Beyond reviews are just going to miss that window entirely. It's a big problem with when they choose to do the show, likely due to like the amount of ad revenue that you make off of sponsor deals around that time. It is a business at the end of the day, but it'd be really nice if we had these take place in January, so you really actually had a fair shake to look at every game for this year. A game like Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, I think, would have a lot more attention if it was in the running, but it's not because of its December 4th release date. So all things considered, cool to see Nintendo featured. Also, don't walk in with the biggest expectations of them winning a bunch of stuff. I do agree that DK Bonanza probably has the strongest shot at Best Family Game. That might be the only award they walk away with, but it's possible that Mario Kart World wins that like racing game category as well. I do think that that's another thing that is possible. But from there, I want to transition to kind of an interesting leak that popped up. This comes to us from Nash Weedle. Now, he's pretty confident in his statement here, but we're going to kind of go through this from two mindsets. So Leak Express, I can confirm that work is being done on a port of GTA 6 for Switch 2. I hadn't spoke much about it. I had to be prudent until now. Plus, I can comment that the game's delay is not due to this version. It seems it won't arrive at launch. And while I do think we have a shot for GTA 6 on Switch 2 at some point in time, I'm much more leery on when to expect it. I think it'll definitely be later than the other versions. But while Nash has had a very good track record in the Switch 2 generation, to be clear, there's still been some recent misses, such as the Metroid Prime 4 Direct not being a Direct. Kind of Nintendo did an equivalent to it, but it definitely wasn't a Direct. And so I do believe that sometimes Nash has good info from good sources and other times has info from sources that miss. And that's where I kind of want to, actually also reference Reese Kiwi Talks Riley, who is a game podcast interviewer. I mean, literally numerous different developer interviews have gone live from this individual over multiple years, but this is him retweeting Nash's tweet here and saying, I'm skeptical about Nash Weedle's intel regarding GTA 6 on Switch 2. It's very hard to get accurate intel at Rockstar because of how compartmentalized it is. I waited till I got a consensus from 8 devs across multiple studios before I even spoke about the Switch 2 version of Red Dead Redemption 2, and no one internally has told me about a Switch 2 version of GTA 6. I've only heard about it from one source, and he doesn't even work at Rockstar, and he's gotten stuff wrong before. Rockstar doesn't like compromising on their vision. It's not in their culture. So if this is a thing, I'd imagine to be for one of two reasons. One, Take-Two put their foot down and demanded it because of the Switch 2 success, or two, Nintendo threw a crap ton of money at Rockstar and gave them a sweet deal. The only point I'd be on board with is if it is a thing, it would definitely come later and not day and date with the PS5 and Series X and S version. And I already know it 100% wasn't delayed for the Switch 2 version. But he's saying the recent delay for GTA 6 wasn't tied to any kind of Switch 2 version, which maybe you could have believed that. I don't think that that's the case either. I think if we do get this thing, it's way later on down the road. And it's not even because, I mean, yeah, it will take some extra optimizing for the Switch 2 and stuff like that. But we know, docked play and things. Switch 2 is in the realm of conversation of like a Series S, and this game is coming to that. But Rockstar, for the game's launch, is not even giving PC players a native version of, or a version of this game at all. It's literally only console with PS5, Series X, and S. And I just think that, yes, it is very much possible that this makes it to Switch 2 one day, but it may not be in the higher line of priority, like around the release window, because Rockstar, very similar to Nintendo, just tends to do their own thing, and they will just make random announcements like quick, other piece of news. Red Dead Redemption is getting essentially a current generation console version, and that means Switch 2 will get an upgrade for, better resolution, frame rate, all that kind of stuff. And then there's still an outstanding rumor from reliable sources like Nate the Hate and even Reese Kiwi Talks Riley, suggesting that, that game will be indeed coming as far as Red Dead Redemption 2 port for modern gen consoles, and Switch 2 will be in that conversation as well. So we're going to see all that stuff come. I just think it's going to be very spread out, and maybe a couple years down the road, rather, is when we're hearing about something GTA 6 related. And listen, Nash has gotten a lot right. As I said, he may have a valid source on this, but he may also be putting it out there very early compared to when we'll see it actually hit the hardware, especially whenever you think about a game as visually intensive as GTA 6 looks so far, running on a portable mode console at the end of the day. Because while it can take advantage of the docked additional power, it has to be optimized to still be able to run on a handheld battery powered console. So I think that's going to take some time, but hopefully we do see it sooner rather than later. And one quick asterisk to the story that just popped up after I was done recording and everything else that I want to add in here in post editing is the fact that Nate the Hate has actually chimed in on this GTA 6 rumor, leak, whatever you want to call it, because we got a write-up from My Nintendo News that I did not see until right after this, which Nate the Hate says Rockstar has tried to get Grand Theft Auto 6 running on Switch 2, but the exact quote is, I said a while ago that R, being Rockstar, was doing tests to bring it to Switch 2, but tests don't always equal release. I know an effort has been made to see if they can bring it to the platform. I don't know the current state of that effort. So maybe leaning some more credence to Nash's claims, maybe also just being in the mindset of, listen, test does not equal release, and it's too early to say if it's going to happen, but that is at least something that Rockstar is actively looking at the very least. So another silver lining, you can't beat Nate the Hate whenever it comes to leaks, track records, and reliability and everything like that. So definitely wanted to add this on as an asterisk to the story right at the tail end of it. Okay, finally, to close this out, we have first official screenshots of the Legend of Zelda live action movie. So the first official photos from the Legend of Zelda live action movie have been published. The pictures show Bo Bragson as Zelda and Benjamin Evan Ainsworth as Link. And you can see the first one here, but I'll tell you what, we're actually just going to go ahead and roll on down. I'm going to take my camera off here for a moment, and I will get the larger images of these on screen for you guys so you can see them. This has me very excited for this movie. Like, clearly we know there's going to be a lot of different post-production and things that go into it, but for Nintendo just to choose to share this, these, you know, raw images of it so far, it already looks quality to me. And I do think, you know, outfits are interesting. There's some talk about that because obviously Princess Zelda looks a lot more Breath of the Wild era influence with the blue, but then you have traditional green tunic Link and almost looking very Twilight Princess-esque. So we may be making some separate videos in terms of what, if anything, this means with some game cross promotion. But I do find their outfit choices very interesting, and it was cool for Nintendo to actually go through and respond to the recent leaked footage of, you know, people basically hiding out in bushes and filming some of the actual what's happening in the movie. And we may know about Impa being there. We saw like the Hylian crest on the side of Epona, presumably. There's some interesting leaked footage out there that you can go dive into. But as opposed to Nintendo trying to just take that down from the internet, they actually just said, hey, let's give you your first official look, and we're just going to share the screenshots. So we did get that today. This, of course, comes out in May of 2027. So that is May 7th. Providing nothing changes, but that's essentially what we're looking at, and I'm cautiously optimistic about this movie. I cannot wait for it. I'm very excited. That said, I also understand it will take a lot to really pull off the story and the lore and create a good story arc for a Legend of Zelda movie, but I feel like Nintendo's going to do it. I just, you know, you don't want to see them fall short, so we'll have to wait until the movie gets a little bit closer to release. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, what you make of all the different stories we talked about today. What do you think about the new round of updates for Switch 1 backwards compatibility and Switch 2 dock issues? Game of the Year thoughts? What do you think about Donkey Kong Bonanza making it for Game of the Year? Do you think it has a shot of winning, or are you pretty clear, like I am, thinking that Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is walking away with this one? What do you think about GTA 6 and the new rumors or leaks around it coming to Switch 2? Do you think it's happening anytime soon? Do you think it is happening but way further off? Or do you think it's going to get skipped up altogether? And what are your initial impressions of the first screenshots of the Legend of Zelda movie coming out in 2027? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.